Today I wanted to talk about what the signs are that you're dealing with someone who's, in psychology, they call it a cluster B personality type. Well, it's a little bit of a crass way to saying it. And then in the kind of self help slash New Age spirituality movement, you hear the term psychic vampire. And I find that those terms can be very interchangeable. And I'm someone, because I'm isolated, and I do crave like close relationships. I don't mean necessarily romantic, like friendships. Um, Unfortunately, people like this have picked me off a couple times, and I'm going to give you the signs. What in my experience are the signs, so you can avoid them. Um, so the first sign is love bombing, and this term gets thrown around too much. Um, I think, to describe things that aren't actually love bombing. So I'm going to distinguish what love bombing is versus love bombing. So, love bombing, a lot of people think that love bombing is simply, oh, they fall in love with you too fast, then they give you shitloads of love, is love bombing. I think that definition, well, definitely a part of it, is a bit reductionist. For me, from my understanding of love bombing, it has to be done with intentions to exploit you. So this is what real love bombing is. It's an actual concrete example. There was a man on the autism spectrum who was on welfare, and he had a relationship with someone who suffered with borderline personality disorder. And what she would do is every single month, at the end of the month, she would call him up and say, oh, let's work things out, let's get back together, blah, blah, blah. So he'd come over and she'd do stuff with him for a few days. Then the check would come in, she'd collect it for her rent, throw him out. So the reason why that's love bombing is because she'd shower him with attention and affection in order to get what she wanted from him, and then she'd throw him out. That to me is love bombing. It's not just, oh, someone who falls in love too fast and bombs people with love. No. It's interpersonal exploitation. Okay? And even if they're not doing things like financially exploiting you, or if you want to put it more bluntly, abusing you, what they're doing is they're kind of setting you up so you'll be more tolerant of their nonsense. Um, so basically, if you start off giving people a shitload of love, but then you kind of slowly back away from that and then you start treating them like shit, um, they can make the person kind of like addicted to them. Um, so they're like a gambler. You're like, if you're dealing with someone like this, you're like a gambler at the slot machine, just waiting for some breadcrumbs of the intense love bombing that began. So that's the first sign of a cluster B personality type slash psychic vampire. The second thing that you're going to want to be on the lookout is something called splitting. When I say splitting, a lot of people will think about the idealization devaluation cycles in borderline personality disorder. But a lot of the people who work in mental health, practitioners, and deal with people with BPD, people with NPD, ASPD, and so on, when they talk about splitting, they actually refer to it in a little bit of a different way. So they refer it as when someone with a cluster B personality disorder, usually borderline, starts driving wedges between people. What do I mean by that? So the person with BPD, or the psychic vampire in question, whatever, will either take half truths or outright lies and say, so and so said this about you. And then they'll go to the person that they claimed was talking crap about you, and then they'll say, well, that you said XYZ. And it's a way to manufacture conflict for them. And how this works in particular, and how this is relevant in their relationship with you, is oftentimes it's a method of isolating you. So by isolating you from your friends, your family, they basically have you all to themselves, which makes it difficult to escape from them. And so they often, in domestic violence, like counseling circles, they oftentimes refer to this as isolating the victim. And splitting is a common way, okay, but yet not the only way to isolate the victim. And the third sign that I'd look out for is lying. And I don't mean like the lying that like we all do, even me, on a daily basis. Like everyone, we've all lied to like protect someone's feelings or to avoid conflict, avoid drama. That's normal. Okay? Everyone lies to some extent. Some people a little bit more than others. I'm talking about lying that is very, very frequent and makes no sense. For example, in the case of Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, you have the fact that Amber Heard stole her assistant's story and used it to frame Johnny Depp as abusing her. That's an example of pathological lying. So if you see a story, if you hear stories that just don't add up or don't make any sense or are just too crazy to be true, and that's another sign that you could be dealing with someone like this. Another sign you can look for is, are they always the victim in every conflict that they're in? So what do I mean by that? It's normal to get boned once in a while, to be screwed over. But if every single time there is an argument or fight with someone, the person is basically making it out to be that they're the victim and I did nothing wrong and they're bad, they're evil, blah, 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 blah. That is a huge, huge red flag. When a normal person who's capable of self-reflection gets into a conflict with another individual, it's normal to look back at that conflict and think, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that or done whatever. That's how normal people view conflict. But someone who's a psychic vampire or cluster B personality type has a tendency to view themselves as the victim in everything. And yeah, those are like the 5 signs that someone you're dealing with is extremely dangerous. And I can't give too much of an extensive explanation on getting away from them because I've actually never had to live with one on a permanent basis aside from a familial like relationship, like someone living with me when I was younger with one of my parents. Um, but what I've personally done in my adult life to basically cut off someone with a personality disorder is because people who are psychic vampires or cluster B personality types will oftentimes use something called flying monkeys to continue their mistreatment, or depending on how bad it is, abuse of you. If you cut them off, you'll also find you may have to cut off any mutual friends that you have with the person. So if you've grown close with their friends, you have to cut them off. Chances are the reason why is because just that they'll use their friends to try to get into contact with you, or try to start drama between you two and all this other shit. And it's all part of the manipulation, and it's all part of their way of kind of reeling you back in to deal with their bullshit. So, yeah. Another thing. So, my basic solution to all this is cut off your mutual contacts. 2, do not engage. Don't, if they, and this is going to be hard, the second one is going to be harder because they'll come out with all kinds of bullshit, all kinds of lies, all kinds of slandering. Right? And some people will believe them. And that's unfortunate, but c'est la vie. Unfortunately, the moment you defend yourself or try to debunk the things they've said about you, you're actually giving them what they want. Because the ultimate goal of this is what's called the smear campaign, is to reel you back in and get you involved with them, because they want above all else to keep you around, whether for emotional reasons, for material reasons like financial gain, or some combination there too. And so what you have to do is you just have to go, just do not engage. Block them on everything. And if they contact you in any way, what you have to do is you have to make it abundantly clear. Hey, I don't want to be around you anymore. I need you to leave me alone. Block, delete, block, delete. And just keep your head down. Keep doing your own thing. And the way to avoid people like this in the future